Ozzy Osbourne. Master of middle voice, master of compression. I'm not going to say he's underrated. Obviously, he's extremely successful, but I think he's underrated in terms of being seen as a serious vocalist. And he deserves that because he is a brilliant vocalist, technically and artistically. He's worth an analysis and he's worth taking seriously, and he is worth learning from. This first one we're going to listen to is War Pigs, a live video from 1970. There's no effects on his voice. It might have gone through a little bit of post-production since, because it's been uploaded to the Black Sabbath YouTube channel. And I think they have tweaked things. They've remastered or whatever. But as far as I can tell, it's not been tuned, and it doesn't have that it doesn't have all of that overlay on that they normally put onto the studio recordings, where his voice tends to be very processed. So this is very kind of raw, shall we say.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. In the fields of bodies burning,
it has a souly vibe, right? The tone is smoky and pharyngeal, so it's but without it being super hard, so it's kind of dispersed, so it's got a softness to it. Their influences are bands like The Cream and Led Zeppelin. Their influences is music of black origin, like blues, like proper blues singing. So the pocket he's gone for is like that ow behind the nose. It's head voicey, which means it's got a lot of movement to it, and he can get right on the notes. He can do lots of slides and bends. It's very malleable. He's got a very malleable voice. Next bit we're going to hear is like a bit more intense, a bit more shouty. Like, he's really yelling there. He's pulling chest. He's doing the call. He's singing in overdrive. Ozzy Osbourne, as far as I'm concerned, what I usually hear is like this, he's found like this thin spot in the voice that's compressed, right? And slightly higher. But then here in this bit, he was actually pulling chest and yelling up. He tends to do more of the, what I call like stretchy singing, like where it's like more, it's more leaned, or it's held, or more compressed.
Sends out hero fire, cast the priest into the fire. Praise for all that's enough.
All right, and he's going for big open vowels there as well. Cast the priest into the fire. It's like a going back and forth between like the sort of thinner compressed sound, and then into letting the vowels drop into the mouth. So again, it's like, it's a lot of variety. This is a live performance of No More Tears. So it's when Ozzy Osbourne went solo from Black Sabbath. So his style changed, like it became more glam, I guess. More like your sort of standard mid-80s kind of hard rock that was coming through, and less of like the bluesy, souly origins. But his technique and everything has stayed the same. Like it's definitely still his voice. Now, if there are any men listening, try and sing that. You'll see how high in the range that is. He's just straight into the high part of the voice. And it's on like what I would call like a half voice. It's like a muted, quieter version of the full voice, thinner. If he was doing that in full voice, it'd be coming up from the bottom. So it would be a wide, loud part of the voice. But it's like he's coming in on it from above. To give it power, it's more compressed. It's like held back like that, holding the air back. I love that voice crack there because that proves that it's a live performance, and you know, that's what happens. That's what happens in live performances. That just shows you he didn't lean in as much as he should have to get that out, but that just shows you how head voicey his voice is. He could have just gripped it a little bit more and it would have come out fine, but that's what happens, you know. You can hear the words clearly, but if you really listen, you'll hear a lot of I vowel. You can, if you wanted to sing like that, you could warm it up on an I, and then keep the I feeling like the I shaped vocal tract, and then sing the words over that pathway. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of skill though, because those are really high notes. And then it's interspersed with overdrive. Then he lets it drop into the mouth. So he does use overdrive as well, or like those mouthy, beefy vowels. His pronunciation of words, it's almost tongue-in-cheek. The light in the window is a crick in the sky. I don't know who I can compare that to. I don't know if he has a singer in mind, or started off with a singer in mind who he was kind of emulating their voice, their tone, their pronunciation. It's very fascinating. It's very distinctive. We always know it's Ozzy. It's not the usual kind of slurred, I'm on drugs and I'm singing rock sort of pronunciation that you often hear, you know. It's like very clear diction, like very deliberately clear diction. He really knows how to get on those high notes. He knows that if he kind of goes, it'll put him up to the next register, or the next level, the next set of notes, the next feeling in the voice, you know. He knows how to manage his voice. There's a great video of him doing some warm-ups with Seth Riggs, who is the guy who we associate with like mixed voice and middle voice and combining the chest and the head and going all the way through the range without break. Obviously, Ozzy had a great technique before he ever met Seth Riggs, but the Seth Riggs training, it lends itself to what Ozzy was doing anyway. So he'd kind of intrinsically figured out this like narrow part of the voice, this pocket of narrowness and more compression. I should play a little bit of that video actually. So he's doing the lip trills, the famous lip trills. A lot of vocal coaches are using lip trills as a warm-up, right? Seth Riggs originally meant the lip trills to be getting your body used to just carrying on up the range, just without any complications, without any extra musculature action, without anything weird kicking in, and just letting the air do the work. And, you know, just getting the voice to gently connect. And it's very important to keep the lip trills on a. So a lot of the time people are going like this. if you stop the trill and just see what sound you're making without the, it shouldn't sound like that. It should sound like this. It's an oo. It's like getting towards an oo almost. So the larynx is lower and it's in a more squashed, confined, place instead of blah, 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 blah. And a lot of people are doing it like this as well, like a motorboat. Just way too much force. You'll see Ozzy here taking the weight off his lips as Seth Ridge originally instructed us to do. And it's letting the lips bubble, not.
Now give me mum, 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 M-U-H-M. Mum, 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 mum.
The mum exercise. This is so interesting. So he's going mum, 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 mum. That's about getting the compression in a nice, gentle way. It's not about over compressing. Tons of rock singers just over compress the voice. And it's like, oh, I can get these high notes by squeezing the hell out of my vocal cords. And the sound, it sounds constricted. You know, people push it and it's like almost getting to hyper compression. It's like right on the cusp, but it can still sound really good. But a lot of them just go over the top. This is a very gentle way of learning to compress the vocal folds. Ma, holding that air back, you know, and then you can work into that sound. But it's not just where you're like, you're setting off some sort of reflex it's way too much, you know.
We're gonna give it the gee, slightly hooty. Okay, gonna give you a chance to rest for a little bit.
See, he's working on his compression. His voice cracked there, but you know, that's why he's taking some coaching to sort of get it back on form. It's that just gently compressing in and then just releasing as you come back down. And it's the hooty gee on a low larynx, basically. This next one, he's warming up before a show and he's singing Paranoid just with the guitar. So you can hear everything. It's very fascinating.
Finished with my woman 'cause she couldn't help me with my mind.
You can hear that squeeze now, that compression, the holding back of air. Finished with my woman 'cause she could. It's not. It's a bit low. I'd need to be a bit higher for it to really kick in for me. And he's found that magical spot in his voice again.
Make a joke and I will sigh and you will laugh and I will cry. Happiness I cannot feel and love to me is so unreal.
He's got like the squeezed compressed thing, but he's also doing the overdrive shouty thing as well, but he's not going too, when he goes too far away from the squeezy compression thing, his voice goes off, but he knows that and he reins it back in. He's really in control of his voice. He understands what he's doing. You know, and some people might say, oh, it sounds nasally, but it's not nasally, it's pharyngeal. There is a difference. Nasally tends to have like a hard edge to it. Pharyngeal tends to be a bit more dispersed. Rather than nasal's like further forward. Ozzy's got so many amazing clips, you know, we could have looked at a lot of stuff here. But I just really wanted to touch on the technique, on his voice from a technical point of view. I imagine I'll do a part 2 of Ozzy, if not even a part 3, because there's just so much to say about him, and I like listening to the songs as well. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening.